Hey guys, welcome back to the Joy of Communication. I'm your host by the name of Patience. Today I'm bringing you a new episode titled, What Challenges Do Non-Immigrants Face While Schooling in the US? Today I have a guest. She was born and raised in Nigeria. She got a bachelor degree in communication and a master's in project management. Guys, she gave one of the best speeches on her graduation day, class of 2022. Her hobbies are traveling, art, music, and trying different food. Welcome, Fortune, aka my lovey. It's amazing having you here.
Thank you. Hey, lovey.
Hey,
I'm excited to
lovey.
be here.
I'm excited that you're here, actually. Thank you for honoring me with your presence.
Thank you for letting me be here.
I'm glad you're here. So, how was your day today?
It was good. I went to church. I haven't been to church in a while, so went to church with my best friend, and I liked it.
That's
and,
me.
And I had lunch, and I'm here.
Okay. So, what did you like about the service? Did you like anything?
Just being around people, because like for me, going to church sometimes just like being able to like fellowship with other people. So just being around people and just singing like the Christmas songs. I also absolutely love that.
Okay.
So that was nice. And then like I said, going there with my best friend also made it a plus. So,
Period.
Yeah.
I want to add to that. So what made you smile?
What made me smile?
Yeah. Today.
There's so many things I could say, but I don't want to sound cliche or whatever, but just being alive and just being able to get myself out of the bed. And actually, I haven't been to church in a while, so going out there just made it a different day for me.
Okay. I love
I was
that.
just happy.
I like that a lot. Okay, today we are talking about the challenges that non-immigrants faces. And I wanted to ask you, what brought you to the States?
Definitely school. Like I've tried going to school. Like you already said in the introduction, I'm from Nigeria. I've tried going to school in Nigeria. I wrote JAM like 3 times.
Yeah.
The first time I passed, but I didn't get in. But the second 2 trials didn't work out. So I'm actually came out here because of school.
What is JAM?
So it's an exams you take when you're done with like high school in Nigeria to get into the university. And they have a certain score you have to actualize for you to get into the universities. And if you pass that, you take another test to get into the program that you're supposed to get into.
Yeah.
I wrote that a couple of times, didn't work out for me. And my sister was like, you should try coming to school in America. And I tried one take and I was in. So
yeah. So where did you go to school?
Here in America?
Yeah.
I went to BYU, Idaho.
What was that transition moving from Nigeria and coming to BYU?
I don't want to say I didn't know what to expect, but at the same time, too, I could also say I didn't know what to expect.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things I could talk about. I don't know if I should talk about like the weather, the culture, because coming out here, Nigeria, the weather is so hot and most times humid. And my first semester here was the winter.
Okay.
So coming out here and I arrived here in December, I was sick for 2 weeks because of how cold it was. And I had to start school like 2 weeks after. But the system, the educational system out here is different. Like in Nigeria, going through elementary school and high school, we learn how to write the British way.
Okay.
So coming out here, I wasn't really paying attention to all of those things. But coming out here, I had to like make some changes because there's certain things I would say and spell. And I realized that, okay, this is how we say it or write this in the British way, but in the American way is different. So that's something I had to transition into too. And thank you or thank God for autocorrect, because when I type into the laptop, it just corrects my spelling for me. Not because it's wrong, but because that's not how it's recognized in American education. Because that was also another thing that I like experienced here. The transition from learning the British way to learning the American way.
Okay. So when you came to the States, were there like questions that you were asked a lot?
Oh, girl, don't get me started. Wait, let me start with my hair, because that's probably like the most obvious thing right now. Like, just like, I mean, obvious to you. Definitely the hair texture is different. I wouldn't say I'm the first Black person to be here. So it's something they've seen before. But like they tend to ask like, hey, is your hair real? Especially like when you do braids or you have afro and they're like really puffy or your braids are like really, really long. They ask you that. Now, one that I really got my first week that I just immediately know, to me personally, was offensive. Maybe the person saw it as giving a compliment, but I didn't like it, was when this woman met me on the way when I was walking the class, and she was like, she said hi to me, and I responded. She's like, it's snowing. Do you want to ride to campus? I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. My class is just like few blocks away, but thank you so much for like offering. And then she was like, wow, your English is so good.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, your English is so good. I'm like, okay. I didn't say thank you because I grew up speaking English in Nigeria. So someone coming to tell me your English is so good, it just made me feel a type of way. I
Like,
don't know.
what makes you think because I have an accent that means I don't speak English?
Yes, exactly. So I
How
was just
dare
like,
she?
yeah, that's one thing I could actually highlight.
I got that a lot. I was asked, patient, how come you speak so well? And I'm just like, Nigeria is an English speaking country. The next question I got was, patient, how come you know fashion so well? You dress so nice. Duh. The next question I got was like, patience, do you live in a house? You live on a tree? The one that was weird and really driving me nuts was like, patience, do you have lion as a pet? Who do you think I am?
Oh, you have them like walking on the streets or
Like,
whatever.
seriously. And then in my book, I was just like, what do you think Nigeria look like? But then I realized that Nigeria was also labeled as Africa. People don't get that Nigeria is a country on its own, just as much as Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. They label us in Africa. So Africa is one thing to them. And they don't know that this is a big continent that has a bunch of countries in it. And it was so crazy that was not something being thought.
Yeah, and just to even add to that real quick, I had a friend who was asked, how do you feel wearing Western clothes? And I'm like, you guys have to remember that as much as America as a whole is evolving, like other places are also evolving. I'm not saying the whole of Nigeria has evolved or like all the countries in Africa as a continent has developed fully, but we do have places that are fully developed. We do make Western clothes in quotes in Nigeria. Like we have fashion and design back home. So that statement was just like, oh, you need to go educate yourself, because we don't walk around naked and we don't wear leaves or whatever you think we do. We actually have clothes and cars.
Period.
Nigeria, so.
That's a fact. We do, guys.
And we speak English. We do speak English, people.
Yes, we do speak English, people. I love that. I want to go back to the day you came to America, okay? You came to America knowing that you were coming here to school. Walk me through. So how was it like studying school? Did you have to work? What did that look like?
As a non-immigrant coming to school in America, we do have limitations. Even getting a visa to come out here, one of the questions they ask you is why you're coming out here to school and why you're not doing like your education or pursuing your academics in your country. And then you also have to prove to them that you have intentions to go back home. And one other big thing you have to show is finances. That your family, wherever they are, Nigeria, whatever country in Africa, wherever in the world they are, have the finances to support all your tuition and other like bills while you're in the country schooling. So no one expects you to actually come out here and work, in quotes. But then coming out here, they do let us work. I think maybe it's the whole idea that, oh, these people, they have to buy groceries or whatever. But you get limitation in the sense that you have to be in school full time. And while you're in school full time, you're only allowed to work part time. And then let's not talk about minimum wage. First of all, when I came in here my first year, I think as a student, we're earning like $8.50 per hour. And you work 20 hours a week. That is if you actually get a job. Because yes, most people get jobs, and the easiest job to actually get on campus is custodial. I feel like a lot of international students must, at least at some point, have cleaned bathroom and toilet, doing like the custodial jobs before they get like other like better jobs on campus that will still pay you about the same thing. So coming out here, for me personally, it wasn't really hard for me to get a job on campus, because you're not allowed to work off campus. If you do that, it's illegal and it's against the policies and everything. But I did get a job. My first job was actually custodial. So I was cleaning bathrooms and toilet and stuff like that. I grew, and like as I got more and more like into the semesters, I got a better job. I started working as a tutor. Still around the same pay, still 20 hours. It's always going to be 20 hours per week until it's called an off track, a semester where you're not taking classes. That's the only time you're allowed to work 40 hours a week.
And still getting paid the same amount?
The same thing, the hours just increase.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay, I want to make it about you now. You came here knowing that you were going to school, but you had to work. Was the work based on choices that you had to work just because of the sake you wanted to just work, or were you working for a reason?
if you're referring to me personally, I like to be independent.
Yeah.
So I feel like regardless of if my parent had the funds or not, sponsor me full ride when it comes to like food, clothing, tuition, housing, I would still want to do something to show that I'm like making money for myself.
Yeah.
And obviously my circumstances are not exactly that. And then I wouldn't even want to put that pressure on my parents, because like right now it's really bad talking about the currency in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Compared to dollars. When I came here, the exchange rate was like around 300 and something.
Yeah.
But then right now it's skyrocketed up to 1700, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But being the person that I am and like always wanting to take care of myself, I feel like I won't want to put that pressure on my parents to have to convert naira to dollars to spend up to 4,000, if not more. Actually, more than 4,000 every semester to pay for my tuition and other expenses. I feel like if I had the way to provide that for myself, I won't want them to stress over that, which obviously I did my best to like make sure I took care of all my educational like expenses and I didn't have to call my parents for help.
Yeah.
One thing that definitely helped me was scholarship.
Yeah.
I came here, I saw a system where if you had good grades, you get scholarship, you don't have to pay for tuition. Took advantage of that, kept my grades good, and I got scholarship most of my academic years.
Yeah. So you had scholarship whilst working, and then using this working, what do you use your money for?
Taking care of groceries for the most part. I also had to pay for my house rent, so that also went into that. Obviously, too, like I had to send money home because there's this thing.
We're going to touch on that very soon.
I had family responsibilities too. Let me just put it at that.
So remind me, how much was this pay that you got?
Started with $8.50 per hour, but then before I graduated from school, it got up to I think $9 per hour.
Let's say $9 per hour, and you're working 20 hours.
Yep. Let's do the math. Actually, you want us to do that? Real quick? Okay. So if we're doing you're earning $9 per hour, and you're working 20 hours a week, in a week you're making $180 dollars. And then if you're timesing that by 4 weeks, which would make a month, it's $720.
So you're using $720 to pay for your housing, buy grocery, and then sending money back home.
Yep.
And that is not included with school fees, because God so willing you were smart enough to like get like scholarships.
Yeah. So imagine those who don't get scholarship and don't get enough support from family, and they still have to pay for their tuition themselves. That it gets more difficult. And out of this money, like house rent, you're looking at least $300 to $400 every month. So it's like half of it is already gone.
So how do you balance schooling with the challenges that you're facing with finances?
Let me see. How do I don't like the opportunity I had to get scholarship from school did not make finances too much of a big deal for me during school. I'm not saying it wasn't a struggle, because like I said, you still have to pay for rent, you still have to buy groceries, you have to buy books. I didn't even add that part. You have to buy books too, transportation, and then obviously sending money to home and all of that. It wasn't too much for me, but it definitely did not create a window for me to say, I want to take a whole week and just rest and not work. I didn't have that luxury, because I had to be consistently working and going to school to keep up with my bills and responsibilities.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing. So what do you think makes your schooling experience unique as a non-immigrant student?
Definitely the culture, the exposure, the expectations. Because have you met an African parent? Maybe a lot of you have. But like when it comes to school, you have to be the best of the best. Like regardless of if your parents are alive or not. Like as long as you've lived 7 years with them and going to like elementary school and high school, there's just that expectations. You can't come back with a grade of C or D and you're like, oh, mom or dad, I had a C or I had a B. They'll be like, the person who had an A, like, did they have two heads? So like just being ingrained with that expectations and coming out here, I already knew I had to do my best.
Yeah.
Definitely the culture, like coming out here, even if I sometimes see people who were like, oh, I don't care if I have a C, it's fine. It wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
Like, I had to make sure I was among the people doing well in my classes, in my department, and in whatever courses I was taking every semester. So that definitely impacted the way I approached schooling out here in America.
Education in Africa is very important, and we were always taught to make sure we have good grades grades, have that education. So the pressure was always on. Nobody expects you to come and be what they call the doyo, the dummy in the class. Like you have to come and come correct. And even in Africa, like your father doesn't want to hear you want to be a musician. They want to hear you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and you aim for the sky. And even when you reach the sky, you aim higher. And I think it started when we were just little, like the pressure of just like having good grades and showing up and showing out was very important. So I agree when you said what you said. And how diverse was your school? BYU
Idaho.
Yeah.
Not very diverse. First of all, I would probably just call it a predominantly white college. Most of the people out there are white. We do have international students, but not a lot of international students compared to the number of Americans that we have, or white Americans that we have. So it wasn't diverse.
Okay, so being in school like that, did you feel like you belong?
I would say no, but then also say yes, in the sense that I was able to find my village. One thing about Nigerians and some Africans, I'm always going to speak for Nigerians because I'm a Nigerian and I know more about them and their culture. We always find a way to gather and make ourselves happy. So I was part of like a Nigerian and African community in college. Like if I needed to hang out or do something, I always had friends that I could hang out with. As much as possible, we also tried to organize like parties and events on campus. So if you want to just stick to what the school was doing to help us feel included, it wasn't really a lot. They did have an international service that sometimes I don't feel like they were very helpful.
Yeah.
Their main goal is come and study and go back to your country.
Yeah.
Like certain other needs that we had, they weren't paying as much attention to it. If they had invested the time they were spending in preparing us to go back, to actually preparing us to feel included, would have been nice. So for me, feeling inclusion or feeling included came from hanging out with friends like other Africans, or even like I had some like Hispanic friends as well and Indian friends. Like I absolutely love Indian food, by the way. So I was able to make myself feel included by joining those little groups and like being around them.
How do you find sense of belonging being in a place where there was like not a lot of people that look like you and home is far away from home? How do you find a sense of belonging?
Yeah, like I just said, the easiest way to do that was meeting people that I could relate with. Obviously, I could relate to like the Nigerians, like other Africans, but I also find myself relating with like people from like other part of the world too. I think almost everyone else that were international students could relate to the things that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
So even if I was talking to someone who was from Mexico, I was talking to someone who was from Peru, I was talking to someone who was from like India or China, we all had a connection.
Yeah.
So I got most of that feeling from being able to hang out with other international students and hearing their stories and also sharing my stories too. That definitely helped.
I love that. So do you think your family fully understood the challenges you faced as a student?
Fully understood is an overstatement. Like you should be asking, did they barely understand? Because like even they barely understand, like, nah, I don't think my family, I would say my family back home, because I do have siblings here in America and they've gone through the same experience. We all came out here to go to school, so they definitely have the same experience as me, and they do understand. But friends and family back home, not fully, not completely. But I have seen some, like my mom, I've seen, just on the side, my dad passed away in 2019. So he was part of my first year experience in college in America. But after he passed away, my mom was most of that experience, and she's still alive up until today. Bless God. I'm grateful to have her. But there are days where I see my mom like calling to check on me, and she's like, I hope you're taking care of yourself, you're eating. I know you're always working and going to school. Make sure you find time to rest and eat. And she doesn't really bother so much about like, hey, responsibility. She's always very heavy on make sure you're taking care of yourself. So her showing that also make me feel like she probably doesn't know what I'm going through out here, but one thing is certain, that she cares about the fact that I'm taking care of myself and I'm also finding time to rest. Like if I send pictures to my mom and I look skinny, she's like, are you eating? Like, why do you look so slim? Like, you know? So that kind of showed that even if she doesn't really like fully understand, she cares about my well-being out here.
And I think you will not fully understand something until you actually experience it. And
true.
yeah, exposure and experience in traveling is like the best teacher, and
makes
people
a
will never
difference.
get it because what they see back home and what you're going through is a different ball game. And until you are in that shoe, even when somebody is explaining it to you,
You won't get it.
you will not get it because you're in your own bubble and your own perspective is different from their reality.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. How do cultural norm or expectation from your family affect your choices in school?
We've talked about this a little bit earlier. That whole expectation of you have to excel in school.
Yeah.
Like every Nigerian or African parent wants something to boast about, especially a child that they nurtured for years. Like they need something to boast about. So you have to be that child they can boast about.
Yeah.
When they go and they hang out with their friends, their age group or whatever, they want to be able to say, oh, my daughter Fortune or my daughter Patience is doing A, B, and C.
Yeah.
So a part of me also definitely want to be something or someone they boast about. So just thinking about that, and I definitely want my parents to be proud of me. I've always wanted to make my parents proud, like personally. So that whole notion for me pushes me to want to excel in school.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about earlier too, in general in Nigeria, you definitely want to be doing well in school.
Yeah.
So that's just the culture on them. They expect you to excel in everything that you do. And because a lot of people in a way tend to excel back home, you have to meet up. You have to follow the trend, if I should say. Also, tag Nigerians as smart people.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the Nigerian who is not smart.
Yes.
And also, definitely that cultural norm is there. And just thinking about it, and me being my person where I love to learn, I love to grow and improve, also made it easier for me to focus on academic excellence and also came out the way I came out.
I think also one thing about my own experience personally, I left the country when I was like 10 years old. I think 10 or 11 at most. I left the country. But I think as a young child growing up from my background, I was raised in a middle class family. I wanted more. I've always wanted more. When I thought about life was just beyond trying to find the next meal. I wanted like that stability. I wanted to be able to buy my mom the best house, build that, buy the best cars. I wanted to make sure I don't stay in what I came from. And what I came from, to me personally, was not the best. And honestly speaking, and when I say that, I don't want to ever take from the fact that my parents did the best that they can. They gave me the life that they could afford, and they made sure there was a roof over my head. They made sure that there was meal. But then I saw the financial struggle in the household. I saw the days that daddy did not have it, and I saw the day that mommy had to like overthink of where to get the next meal, and I did not want to ever have a life where my kids had to go through that. So with that cultural norm of knowing that there's a level of poverty in the country or in the place that you're being raised, you do not want to stay the same way. So for me, what drives me and what forced me to go out of my comfort zone is the fact that I don't want to ever have a household where my kids know what hungers feel like. Where my kids, I cannot afford the best things for my kids, because I feel like I want my kids to enjoy the good things of life, because I believe they deserve it just as much as I believe that I deserve it. I think that's the cultural norm that actually forced me to go out there and just give it my 100 and make sure I bring nothing but the best to my table and the table around me. Because even like I think about it, as a Nigerian, I am not just trying to be the girl that just want to make money and live the best life and have the best things. When you think about, like when I think about it, at the age of 8 years old or at the age of 7, when I was aware and conscious about my environment, when I think about the best things, I wanted to buy my mom the house, but also I wanted to buy my dad the house, and I also wanted to take care of my sisters, and then I have cousins. So it's not just about yourself. It's like you bring this village along, and there's so many people you want to help, because you know that the suffering is real and you don't want to see them go through that. So it's not like even a self-centered kind of thing. It's a selfless kind of thing that you want more to help the people around you, not to go through half of the things that you know we go through on a daily basis as people that are not wealthy.
And I completely agree with that. There's this popular phrase I feel like we Nigerians say, where it's, you know where you came from, so you know where you're going. You know where you came from, so you have to set a different road for where you want to be and what you want to make out of life. And I completely agree with that.
Thank you. Do you think school provide enough support for student mental health?
I think they can do better. I think they can do better. And I also feel like everyone experience like mental health differently as students.
Yeah.
The way an American student will experience mental health will be different from the way an international student will experience mental health.
Elaborate on that.
I get it. A lot of Americans have to leave home to go to college. Some of them stay home at home and go to college. Some of them have to travel to a different state to go to school. But then it's easier. I'm not taking away from their mental health.
Yeah.
Let me definitely clarify that. But it's easier for you to feel homesick and just take a quick 3 hours, 4 hours flight from, let me say, I went to school in Idaho, from Idaho to California, or from Idaho to, I don't know, Texas or Dallas or New York, wherever. But for us, it's a whole continent.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to China, whether you're going to Nigeria or India, you have to fly for hours.
Yes.
You can be homesick, but you can't afford to be homesick because the most you can do is a video call or a phone call back home or send messages and all of that. So mental health for us is definitely different.
Do you think school in the US offer equal opportunities for non-immigrant students from all backgrounds?
I would say generally they appear to, like, at the end of the day, they do the best that they can.
Okay.
Like, I think the first step to showing that you're offering that equal opportunity to, like, international student is more so having an international service or office where students can go with concerns, questions. They can go there for like help. They can also go there for guidance. And most of the services, they try. They do what they can based on like their knowledge and all. So I wouldn't say, obviously, the school would not promote inequality. But then if you find something like that happening in university, sometimes it's the professors, the individual professors who promote that in their classrooms and all. I wouldn't necessarily say I've experienced inequality in a classroom setting, but I would say I've experienced it in my apartment setting, living with my roommates. And I can't blame the school for that in a way.
Can you talk about the situation with your roommate?
More so like when they want to judge situation, most times they take sides of the Americans, like the citizens, and compared to you who is an international student, it's always going to be that the citizens are right. Like whatever the situation that is going on in your apartment, you as an international student, we always take the blame for it. And sometimes it gets so intense that they call the cops on us. Like we're not in any danger to you. Like we're out here. First of all, we don't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
I think I can speak for a few international students or a good amount of international students when I say we don't want to go to jail. So having a misunderstanding, maybe the ones that I feel like is sometimes common is you put, obviously our food is different. It would smell different. It would taste different.
Yeah.
You put something in the fridge and someone will come in and conclude that is rotten, and then they will trash it without even, you have a student, an international student in your apartment. There's going to be different dishes in your fridge. You don't just go in and take someone's food and throw it away. And then someone confronts you for it. You come and you're like, oh, you're being aggressive. When I say confrontation, it's more so going to this person and saying, hey, I had my food in the fridge. I can't find it anymore. What happened? And the person says, oh, I thought it was bad. I threw it away. First of all, you should have asked. So let me say, for example, me coming to you and having that conversation with you, all of a sudden I'm aggressive, I'm confrontational, and you don't feel safe anymore. I don't have a knife in my hand. I obviously will not have a gun, because why would I even have a gun in the first place? I have nothing to arm you. All of a sudden, I'm aggressive, I'm confrontational, you don't feel safe. You're calling your apartment manager, you're calling the cops. And the next thing, they're kicking me out. Why? Because you threw my food. So when you talk of inequality, that's something I will probably want to reference when it comes to like apartments and dealing with roommates, but not necessarily like the school.
That is profound. I felt like when you were even talking about it, you use humor to cover the pain. And I don't know if that's how you deal, but it was just so interesting to see how you laugh through it whilst even saying that.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever felt like the school system overlook or misunderstands certain non-immigrants' needs?
I think I can actually remember a scenario that I personally experienced. I could say they overlook. I don't want to say they didn't know how to deal with it, because first of all, you should know how to deal with it. You have international students in your school. The expectation is just there. But we had this season where it's like the World Cup season, where like they play different countries, like they compete, like playing soccer. We Nigerians, we call it football. I mean, the rest of the world call it football. Only Americans call it soccer. But anyways, back to the topic. We had the World Cup. And so I think that particular day, Nigeria and Ghana, I think, were playing against each other. I hope I'm getting this right. And so we planned with the school to use, there's this big open space on campus. We call it the Crossroad, where we could have this big slideshow. And we could just come with friends from like like roommates and friends, just gather together and watch the game together. It was one way we wanted to come together, because like there's this popular saying that football, even sports, brings people together. So we're like, oh, we want this space, and we asked for it. And they said it was okay for it to be broadcasted. Agreed. Tell me why. We come in on that particular day, ready, all excited to watch the game, and they were doing something else on the stage. Like the whole place was like, what we're trying to broadcast, they wouldn't let us broadcast it. So that was annoying. We went, found a different space in our apartment. We watched the game. But after that, we really wanted to understand, why would you say you guys have the go ahead? Cancel, don't let us know. We come there excited to watch the game and we're stranded. So we went to the international office and we asked them, and then they were like, oh, they can't broadcast the game because sometimes the World Cup game, they show adverts, like short clips that would probably not be appropriate for the school setting because it's a religious school. So because of that, they are no longer broadcasting the World Cup game. And the next question was, since when? Since when were you guys, or are you guys no longer broadcasting the World Cup game? And we told them, okay, it's fine if you no longer want to broadcast the game, but why didn't you inform us so that we can immediately make a backup plan and not come to the location and be stranded? This lady started crying. You won't believe it.
She became a victim.
Oh my goodness. She started crying. Oh, I'm so sorry. And it was outrageous. We were so upset. There's nothing we could do, obviously, but we were just so upset. We expressed how we felt, and we asked for an apology, which took them forever to actually apologize. But we just told them, you guys need to own the fact that you didn't communicate. Let me just say this outright. I don't think you would do this to your American student out here. Like, even if you decide to cancel something, you communicate with them. But when you come to us, you just choose to do whatever you can because you feel like we don't have the rights. So that definitely happened. We really did talk to we spoke to the diversity chairman on campus, and we asked for an apology, and they eventually sent out an email. I don't feel like it was enough, but we took what we got. So
that's crazy. I have no words. Looking back, what do you think could have made your schooling experience better as a non-immigrant?
It's a lot of things. I feel like, first of all, let's talk about like the living condition. I would say, I get it. You always want to support your people, but at the same time, to be fair and consistent, there's always two sides to a story. If there's a misunderstanding happening between adult roommates, don't come in and take a side. Don't be quick to call the cops. That was the most common thing, calling the cops. I don't know what your intention is. If you want us to just go to jail and not complete our schooling, but don't quickly call. Even as an apartment manager, you can sit people down and, hey, let's resolve this conflict. They're either calling the cops or they're kicking you out, which is unfair. I've never seen a situation where the American student got kicked out. It's always the international student who is at fault, because apparently we appear to be aggressive and confrontational, which sometimes, I feel like sometimes even in the way we communicate, and we are people who sometimes we upfront, like we're outspoken.
Very blunt and very passionate when we are saying things. We talk with our hands.
Exactly. And when we do that, it comes off like, oh, we're being confrontational. But when we're just expressing ourselves in the way we know how to, something that's cultural with us, which, if I want to excuse their behavior, which honestly I don't want to, I can see how that can come up a certain way.
I don't.
If it's something you're not used to, but then it's like the person is now explaining themselves to you, but you still don't want to listen. So definitely the apartment scenario, I feel like apartment managers should be more open-minded. Like, understand that there's something called cultural differences and deal with it. And then when it comes to like campus experience, like I just talked about, I just wish that international offices or services are doing better to tend to international students' needs. Okay, I know you're struggling to maybe get a visa, you want to go home and visit, you need to renew your visa, or I know you're struggling with registering early for your classes, because they have certain expectations when it comes to how many credits you're supposed to register for. Find ways to like help and support any way you can to promote like cultural events on campus. Promote those events and prioritize them. Allow us to feel, or let us feel seen and included on campus. So that's also one thing too. And then the professors, come on, you're a professor, like educate yourself. Don't ask dumb questions like, do you guys have cars in Africa? I was in a classroom setting where a professor asked me if everyone in Nigeria is happy. And I asked him, is everyone in America happy? And then he looked at me and I looked at him. And then we moved on, because why are you asking me that question? So when you have international students too in your class, make sure you make it inclusive. Like, I get how you want to learn, but there's a way you make someone the center and attention of the class so much that they become uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I get it, like I'm the only black person in my classroom, but calm down and let me be. Don't ask me questions in the classroom that'll make me feel uncomfortable because I'm the only black person in the room.
Yeah.
So all of those things and many others I feel would have made my experience better going to a college that was predominantly white.
Wow. I want to touch a lot of things that you said because I'm thinking about the whole like renting home to like diverse of people to live in it and then realizing there's an issue, and instead of you like addressing it, you call the cops. You are calling the cops on people that their parents are not yet to come save them. They are learning the laws and the rules and regulation of what this country holds, and then putting them in a position where they have to freak out or being scared or making them feel like you're superior is a very crazy thing, especially when you are renting that place to them. If you're renting your place to someone that does not look like you, understand who you're renting that to and make sure you can be able to assist them and show up when they need you, because it's not just like one person that is paying the rent. The white person does not pay the rent more than the black people. We are all equally paying our rent, so we are all entitled to our rights. Another thing I also wanted to touch on is when you said about the whole professor like just asking you a question. I think it's very clear that sometimes people put you on spot and you don't want to be on the spotlight, and sometimes you're questioning like, why would you even ask me a question like that when you're supposed to teach me anyways? I know how come you're not educated enough to know this stuff, but I think sometimes they feel like they're doing you a favor just to ask you this question. But I think they don't understand that there's so many factors that can play at that moment, putting you on spot, asking you the most stupid, idiotic question. And then I want to clarify, black people speak with passion. They're not aggressive. They're not, I feel like it's when I came to the state that I realized that people put labels on people so much. In Africa, in Nigeria, I am a black person. But I did not recognize myself as a black person. I recognize myself based on my tribe. I am a Calabar girl. But then I came here and I understood that there's a difference between a black person in America and the way they talk and the way they need to respond and all this stuff. So it was so different as an immigrant coming all the way from home that you just patience. It's just fortune, and then coming here to understand you're black, and that means a lot of layers and so many things that you do will factor out to the way people see you or treat you. If you spoke a certain way, you're labeled a certain way. If you act a certain way, you're labeled a certain way, and it's a very different ball game. And it's so crazy that these people that are opening their school for non-immigrants will not educate themselves and make it a platform where they feel safe. I think safety is a very big factor why people will leave home to come and get an education. Not because they like a life where they don't have their dad and mom or whatnot, but I think they want something better. I'm not a non-immigrant, but when I did college, I love stability. And I did not like the idea of like moving from one semester to another semester. I thought it was a lot of moving, especially like an immigrant, packing your whole stuff just to move to another apartment and whatnot. I thought people moved a lot. I was just like, it's not the level of stability, especially from people that are far away from home and coming down here. I feel like they need more of a stable place to stay than always moving every semester. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel the gaps. So I've had people who have lived in the same apartment actually the whole of their college experience.
Okay.
I feel like most times the gaps when people have to move from one apartment to another is when they transition from the semester when they're off track, they're not supposed to take classes.
Yeah.
Because during that time, if you can find maybe like a relative or a friend that is willing to accommodate you, you don't want to have to pay for rent that whole semester.
Okay,
so I feel like that's
sense.
when they would usually move out, go to a place they can stay for free and then move back.
Okay.
But aside from that, generally you can be in the same apartment for your whole college experience.
If you wanted to.
If you wanted to.
Okay, I love that. It's good to be educated
Especially
about
when
that.
they don't raise the rent, because sometimes they do.
Okay, makes sense. What can family and friends do to help show their support to non-immigrant students, and how can they help?
Showing support and how they can help, I think it can come in like what they do and what they don't do. First, I would like to start with what they do. Obviously, I know calling internationally is expensive.
Yeah.
There's this app they call WhatsApp. It's popular in Nigeria, I think most of the African countries. I've also seen like South Americans use it as well.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if I've seen like Asian students use it, but I feel like it's pretty much popular. I mean, you definitely need data to be able to communicate, but I feel like they can use that platform to make sure they are reaching out and consistently checking on students out here. You know, ask them, have you eaten? How are you doing? How are your classes?
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes they completely forget to check on finances.
Like genuinely.
Yes, and also like check on finances and also genuinely check on how like we are doing as international students out here. I'll probably use like myself and people I've spoken to as example. I told you earlier, I got scholarship for school, so I didn't have to worry about tuition.
Yeah.
Now, you meet two different types of international students. The ones that their parents actually pay for their school fees, they don't have to worry about tuition. And they even would probably send money for groceries and house rent.
Yeah.
So if they do work on campus, they just use that money to flex and chill. We have those group of students. Then we also have the ones where the parents, they don't have the capacity to fund anything, not groceries, not tuition, not house rent.
Yeah.
So you as an international student will have to completely take care of that yourself. Now, these are people that I want to focus on because they are the ones I feel like struggle the most, both mentally, financially, emotionally, and whatnot. How can their parents actually help and support? You don't pay for these people's or this student tuition, you don't pay for their housing, you don't pay for food. When you reach out to them, like you mentioned earlier, genuinely check in to see how they're doing. Ask them if they've paid their school fees, because without paying for school fees, they cannot register for classes.
Yeah.
They don't register for classes, they cannot go to school. If they don't go to school, they cannot graduate. And the main purpose of them coming out here is so they can actually get this degree, which I'm believing that as a parent of international students, you're hoping that 4 years after they come out here, they call you and tell you, Mom, Dad, I'm done with school.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me when they go through all of those phases, and not once do you reach out and say, have you paid for your school fees this semester? Instead, what they do is they call you and they ask for money. Now, don't get me wrong. We have these cultural norms. I can't speak for every international student, but Nigerians and some African countries where we have this responsibility to take care of our parents and take care of our siblings, especially when they are back home and we're out here. It's completely okay at the end of the day because we have this sense of they took care of me when I was a baby, so it's now my turn to give back. But there's time for everything.
Yes.
That's something that we forget. Give me time to build myself so I can now come and give back to you. I'm trying to pay my school fees in dollars. I'm trying to pay my house rent. I'm trying to take care of all of these finances. This is not the best time for you to start holding me up to my financial, in quotes, responsibilities. It's not the time for you to start calling me and tell me, send money for this, send money for that, send money for Ashwebi, send money. Because they sometimes ask for the most ridiculous things.
Yeah.
But then we have this obligation of, like, personally, I would definitely send my mom or my sister money for food. Like, I want you to eat. I want you to be alive so that when I graduate, I have someone to celebrate with.
Yeah.
But I've spoken to friends where it's like they do all they can. They consistently send money home and send money home that they get to a point where they cannot even afford to pay their school fees anymore.
Yes.
They can't even afford to eat. They can't even afford to pay for an apartment. Some people have to delay. Sometimes they let us take semester off for like emotional health or mental health and all of that. They even take the whole semester off just not because they want to.
Yes.
But because they can't afford to even clear off the debts from the previous semester to be able to register for the next semester. And then to surprise you to know that their parents don't even know this because they don't, first of all, they don't want to know. Because they feel like if they know, then they will now feel guilty, which sometimes I don't even feel like they feel guilty.
Yes.
And then it will now take away from them asking you for more money.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can they support? How can they help? Take a step back from those financial pressure. Stop asking your daughter or your son, who is the only one out here, and they have 3 or 4 siblings back home, to send money to their siblings, to send money to you. Make it a turnaround. If the little they send you, be grateful for that and work with it.
Yeah.
Last, if they may not, let me speak pidgin. Hopefully you guys are able to break this down. If they may not date the American, I will still survive. If they were not out here, you guys will still eat. You will still be able to survive. So take a step back, and when you send them out here, imagine that they have nothing to give you.
Yeah.
Use that mindset first of all. Don't say, oh, they're in America, they have money. Use that mindset first of all. When they send you money, be grateful for it. Don't ask for more. Rather, turn it around and checking on them. Make sure they've paid their school fees. Make sure they have an apartment they are staying. Make sure they have food that they are eating. Check in on them. I feel like that's one thing Because like even with the friends, the ones with the friends is ridiculous. They expect you to even sponsor them to come to America and study.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a student. I work part-time because I'm not allowed to legally work full-time while going to school. The only money I make, I want to use that money to feed myself and pay my school fees and pay for my rent. You're in the comfort of your father's house. You wake up, there's food, you eat, you sleep. I get it, you have struggles, but I also have mine. So you come in and feeling entitled for me to send you money to register, to like apply to come school out here, or for you to go do a visa interview. When you tell them you don't have, they get mad.
Yeah,
so
entitled.
My sister was told in quotes, rain would not always fall on your roof because she said she didn't have money. Excuse me. Yes, whatever you say, but Heavenly Father or God knows our heart.
Yeah.
And He knows when we genuinely say we don't have. Like, not to like say too much. I just want to say the one way they can actually show love and support. I feel like that's the most biggest struggle. Checking on these people, how they're doing financially, and take a step back. Allow them to get done with school and land a good paying job. Once they do, I promise you, they will send you money.
I feel like people have a misconception about coming to America. They feel like there's this tree that is somewhere in, let's name it Chinatown, where you just keep plugging and you're putting in your bag.
Please show me that tree. I want to run there and go pick some money.
Because it's just like the American dream is not as picture clear as you think. It takes a lot of sacrifice. It takes a lot of like hard work to get there. It takes my mental health. It takes my physical. It takes my emotional health. And people don't realize that, especially people back home, but they don't realize that you're actually going through it. They just see what you let them see. And you know what? I want to talk about this. Most Nigerians graduate high school at the age of 16, 17. So imagine a 16, 17, or maybe let's say 18, let's say 19. They are still kids. And I think sometimes people forget. I really do think sometimes people do forget that these are actually still children trying to figure it and navigate this thing called life. And leaving home to come to another country that is not something you're familiar with and trying to like navigate life itself is a very big mental challenge, like a big change in your life. But people don't understand the severity of that. So I want to encourage really every immigrant relative, auntie, friends out there, please take your time to actually genuinely call your friends, your family, your kids, your loved one, to just check in on them without a but. But today I've not eaten. But today it was hard. I'm forgetting that they also have it worse. They are also struggling. The only difference is that we're not quick to say today is hard, because we rather shut up and deal with our problem than actually say today I'm actually going through it. And I think they don't know that actually it's a real life challenge that people sometimes, especially non-immigrants that are not opportune, like they are actually going through that. And the only difference is that they're not the one making that phone call to just call and say, today I had it worse. So please genuinely check in on them, ask them how they're doing. It's okay to text someone like, I thought about you and I just wanted to say hi, hope you're good. How is your day? Can I FaceTime you and whatnot? And I think, and it's so crazy because you're not asking for money, you're not asking for anything, you're just asking for the bare minimum. It's just like genuinely care. And it's okay to genuinely care for the people that actually are in need of that, but are not even saying it out loud. What advice would you give to other non-immigrants that are planning on moving to the States to school?
You better be ready.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Be ready in all ways. Like, come with your fighting boots. You definitely will not know what you will go through until you actually get here.
Yeah.
But one thing I would say for sure is it's not easy.
Yeah.
And when you get here, you will understand what we mean by it's not easy. Don't come here with an expectation of luxury. Don't come here with an expectation. I mean, obviously, you eventually get a better life for sure. But don't come here with an expectation that right out the bat is just going to be perfect and
if your parents have silver spoon, yes, it shall be.
You were born with a silver spoon. Oh, worry less. But then if you're coming from, especially those who like come here with like scholarship or sponsorship and all of that, where you definitely know your parents would not be supporting you financially, it's going to be a harder road for you. So when you come out here, network for sure, like build connections with the right people. If you're hanging out with friends, make sure it's people that you've seen that they're actually making progress. Don't hang out with people that would hold you back, discourage you, or make you lose focus. Because once you start treading down that path, like things just start going south for you. So for sure, like I said, or like we mentioned, if you were born with a silver spoon, obviously, chill. But if you come in here under like sponsorship or like somehow your parents found a way to bring you out here, but you don't expect them to like fund you financially, network, know that it's going to be a struggle. You won't be seeing the money like that. And the little one you have, use it the best way you can to take care of yourself. If you're coming to a school like BYU Idaho, I feel like there are also other schools in America that offer scholarship by merit. Do your best. I don't want to say it's easy to have a passing grade in America, but one thing I've learned about the system here is as long as you turn in your assignment on time and you follow the rubric or the expectations from the coursework, you will get an A, you will get a passing grade. So take advantage of those merit scholarship, have a good grade. That way you have one less thing to worry about. It takes tuition out of the way. You only have to worry about your apartment and other like little bills and all.
I agree.
And then it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to save. And when you have the opportunity, definitely save and then talk to people who've had their experiences and learn from them. You don't have to learn from your own mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. Like seriously, like there's no time to learn from your own mistakes. And then just go from there. Some professors genuinely care. And they are good. When you see those ones, you recognize them. Take advantage of that relationship.
Hold on to that.
Hold on to it and take it. It would help you. It would go a long way to help you.
And even if you're born in silver spoon but want to make a life for yourself, use it too. Take this advice.
To be honest with you, yes, because some people come out here and they mismanage funds. They video mismanage funds. Anyways, back to the topic. They come out here because their parents are spending the mismanaged funds. I would say you managing your funds better will help you once you're done with school. You have to start disciplining yourself now compared to saying, I'll just do whatever I want. When I get done with school, I'll become more disciplined. That would not happen. So the best time to start disciplining yourself, even though you're still getting those funds from home, is just manage as much as you can. Still work, because that would also give you experience for when you get done with school. And even if you decide to stay in the country and go back home, at least you have that experience and you have that discipline.
I agree 110%. That is really profound. Thank you for sharing that. How do you stay motivated despite the challenges of balancing school and financial responsibility back when you were in school?
I think the way my personality is, I'm someone who is very competitive. I like to win. I don't want to describe myself as independent anymore, but I'm someone who loves to be independent. I'm someone who I'm someone who likes to know that I know what I'm doing and I have things in a way in control.
You have a plan.
Yes, exactly. So I know what's next and what next. So one thing, and I just would say my personality is what has made me like stay motivated. I know what I want out of life and I'm gunning for it. I know where I want to be in life, so I'm gunning for it. Regardless of if my friends or family, obviously this encouragement are very helpful. Those words of affirmation would definitely push me. But regardless of if those things come in or not, I would always motivate myself. I would always tell myself, like, girl, if you want to win, you should be doing A, B, and C. This procrastination would not help you. I second that. I feel like I'm my biggest motivator. And then obviously my friends, I'm very grateful for them, even my bestie. And like my siblings, and obviously my mom, regardless of if she says or don't say, I want to make that woman proud. So just thinking about my village, the people that are looking up to me also motivates me to want to keep pushing and get through school and get to where I am today.
I want to even talk about that. Like, you got your bachelor degree in 2022 and it's 2024 now, and you just finished your master's. And I feel like without no debt, even like your master's, you paid it by yourself. And I would say I am so proud to just watch how you can just set a goal, be determined, and let's not get it twisted. There's been challenges and trials. In 2022, you lost your dad. Permit me to say, 2024, your mom had, can I say it? Your mom had cancer. And it blows my mind when you lost a father, 2022, And then in
2019.
2019,
Yeah, that's
okay, correction. 2019, you did lose your dad. And then in 2024, whilst you were doing your master and almost getting to a point where you're done with it, you had to deal with your mom fighting for her life. And in a way, you overcome those challenges. I would say that I don't know how you kept going. Let me also say that you just graduated with your master's. Congratulations with that. And thank God for your mom. Your mom is okay now. But it was so amazing to see how you navigate that and trying to navigate your life. It's so profound. And I could agree that something keeps pushing you and something keep motivating you to go. And I love that you don't give up no matter what stage, because you're never prepared for what life throws at you. But the way you respond to it says a lot about a person. And I think it's very profound to see how much a lot of things that's happened to you have said a lot about you, that you can overcome trials and tribulation and still make things happen. So I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I appreciate you for saying that.
You're welcome.
It's so sweet.
You're welcome. So what lessons have you learned from this experience that you would share with other international students?
Like, where do I start? I think I'll just make it very simple and like straight to the point. Be your own biggest supporter. You're going to have days where you may not feel like people want you to win.
Yeah.
You may have days where, especially those, like picking back on talking about families, where sometimes they call your friends, they call because they want to check in, because they want to ask for something. You're going to have days where you feel like they don't really care about your growth or your development.
Yeah.
You being your own biggest supporter is what will push you through.
Your own best friend.
Yes, being your own best friend. You motivating yourself is what will push you through whatever stress or mental health situation that you're going through. You have to set that up first, because if you don't, it's going to be hard. The road is going to be harder for you. That's something that helped me through my bachelor's and through my master's. I would always look at the mirror and be like, girl, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
Like, your life is in your hands.
Yeah. There's no one coming to save you.
God has the final say, obviously, but when it comes to like humans, your life is in your hands. So take hold of it and move.
And act accordingly.
Yeah.
I don't know, you are the author, definition of your life. You write your story. Like, you need to know how to use the pen and write your story, because like genuinely no one is coming to save you except you have someone that is. But for those that know for a fact that before someone saves you, they have to save themselves, then you got to choose you, because life will test you. And when you're in a country where you just have yourself, but you know the reason why you're here in the first place, act accordingly.
Yeah.
What 3 adjectives would you say describes you?
The past couple years, I would say fragile.
Yeah.
Playful.
Yeah.
And audacious.
Can I add, you're very brilliant. I think you're very brilliant with the way you talk to people, the way you think. I think one thing I love about you is like your mind. I think your mind is a work of art. When we sit down and talk, I love the way you see the world. And I would say very ambitious. You have a dream. Like, girl, like, you're going to be my sugar mommy one day, but whatever.
That's the goal, yes.
But I love how ambitious and driven you are. You're a girl with a vision and a plan, and you execute those vision and plan. I also want to say you're very resilient. With everything that life has thrown at you, I've seen how brave a person can be and how resilient they can be. So I would say that.
Thank you.
Guys, the challenges faced by non-immigrant students are important because they reveal critical issues within the educational system, society, and family dynamic that often go unnoticed. Here's why these challenges matters. It highlights the outlook struggle the non-immigrant face, such as financial struggle at a young age, academic pressure from family and society, struggle with mental health due to stress and expectation, mental health awareness, supporting family expectation, building empathy and inclusion, preparing for a better future. By addressing the challenges non-immigrant students face, we can equip them with the tools and resources they need to succeed academically and personally. This doesn't only benefit the student but also strengthen the future workforce and community. Understanding and addressing these challenges ensure that non-immigrant students are not left out of important conversations about equality, access, and mental well-being in education. A lot of people seem to believe that immigrants and non immigrants are here to take their jobs. But there is a saying that says nothing in life is free, and whatever you think is free will cost you. So I hope you take space as much as you can because we all belong. Hey guys, this is the end of our episode today. I hope you love our episode. Please give it a subscribe, share it with your friend. Thank you so much for honoring me with your presence, Lovey.
Thank you for having me here.
It was a pleasure and an amazing conversation, and I'm just glad that you took your time to talk about a topic so brilliant like this. So thank you for actually coming.
Thank you. This is fun.
Okay, guys, this is the end of our episode. We will talk to you later. So see ya soon. So bye.
Bye.
Bye. We're done. Cut.